Unless we build it now. United States, Africa, we salute ya. A new state of mind, I introduce ya. Close your eyes and visualize the rise of a new paradigm. Solar powered skyscrapers.
Welcome to the Africa Must Unite podcast, a podcast dedicated to inspiring African people worldwide to rise up, organize, and struggle for Pan-Africanism, a unified, liberated, socialist Africa, the only permanent solution to the exploitation and oppression of African people, no matter where they happen to be born or happen to live in the world. Now please, welcome the hosts of Africa Must Unite.
Africa's future is now, so get ready.
And I'm Brother Tokes, and this is Africa Must Unite podcast, and we are the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party. Welcome you all to our 89th installment of the Africa Must Unite podcast, and this month we're looking at African workers' positive motion. Brother Tokes, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Brother Melvin. And you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Doing really well. So as we always get started, Brother Tokes, why don't we go ahead and give some of our critical calendar dates for the month of May?
Great, I sure will. There's so many important ones. I'll just bring out a few. And one is that's Friday, May 2nd. Queen Mother Moore. She's the founder of the Republic of New Africa. She unfortunately passed in 1997. And she was a major Pan-Africanist figure. She lived her life, and in fact, she was one of the members of the UNIA, Marcus Garvey's Universal Negro Improvement Association, and was close to Malcolm X, and just was doing all sorts of things. So she was a wonderful, Pan-Africanist. Then we have French imperialism on May 7th. Met his grave and the famous Battle of Dien Bien Phu, as in North Vietnam. U.S. imperialism was trying its best to continue the colonial heritage of the Europeans in that battle right there put an end to everything. And so that's a major holiday in Vietnam, and for good reason. We can also talk about May 11th. Bob Marley unfortunately passed in 1981. He's just a legendary, iconic figure, musically, culturally, politically, one of the major Pan-African musicians. They see there's so many. Unfortunately, we have another pass here of Malcolm. Malcolm was born. No, not passed, but he was born on this May 19th. 1925, and that's amazing. That's being celebrated all over the world. And in fact, they've unveiled a statue in Ghana.
Oh, nice!
To show the appreciation. The appreciation for Malcolm X. And maybe we can talk about Maurice Bishop. That's May 29th, born in 1944. Maurice Bishop, of course, of Grenada, was a major Pan-Africanist figure who was, assassinated with the help of U.S. imperialism. So that's just some of the important dates to make.
Great dates. And for those of you who are joining us, Brother Tokes is at home in Ghana, so he's able to share with us a bunch of important pieces that are happening at home. And obviously, when we talk about home, we're talking about our homeland, Africa, where regardless of where you are, if you're African, if you're black, using the generic term, regardless of where you are in the world, your homeland is Africa. So when you hear us refer to home, we say Tokes is home. We're referring to Mother Africa, and specifically, he's at home in Ghana.
Beautiful. Well put. Well said.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to just kind of talk about and read what we submitted last year in our calendar piece for this year's calendar piece for African workers, positive motion for the month of May. Just want to read through this piece real quick. And it reads, African workers at home and abroad have been and continue to be extremely exploited by the capitalist system and its extension, imperialism. This has been taking place for centuries, from the slave labor stolen from Africa between the 15th to the 19th centuries to the colonial and neo-colonial periods from the 20th century until this very day. However, a new day has finally arrived. This can be seen in the huge support African workers on the continent have been providing in the recent removal from office of several African heads of state. 2. Organizations such as the National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa, the NUMSA, and a Pan-African Marxist-Leninist Union have been organizing on behalf of the workers. This workers' movement, fueled largely by the youth of Africa, is challenging the class exploitation, gender oppression, and environmental degradation in Africa. It is targeting corporate conglomerates and their governments from abroad, along with their indigenous African puppets, Africa's ruling elite. This movement of African youth and their working class allies have been making several demands, including full employment, affordable housing, decent health care, the end of corruption, proper education, the protection of Africa's environmental integrity, and most importantly, African unity. In June of 2024, African workers organized a nationwide protest against the burden of tax hikes. In October of 2024, protests were organized in Ghana against the environmental degradation of several water bodies resulting from illegal, unregulated mining. And in Southern Africa, including South Africa and Zimbabwe, nationwide protests have been organized, calling for the removal of their heads of state. We must find various ways to help to strengthen this movement. To do otherwise would only serve to invite Africa's enemies to frustrate this movement. We must never let this happen. Forward to one united socialist Africa. All right, that's our submission for the month of May to African workers in positive motion. So Brother Tokes and I, we're going to connect and kind of talk about the African workers' positive motion. So, Brother Tokes, you're still with us, right? You can hear us?
Oh, yeah, I can. I can hear you very well.
Oh, gotcha. Sounds good. So, Tokes, can you kind of begin by explaining what we mean by the term African workers' positive motion?
Great. So, Brother Melvin implies change. So we talked about change, basically, but because of positive motion, we mean positive change. And so it implies or means or connotes that African workers, their struggle to dismantle systems of oppression and exploitation. And it also suggests creating, which has to do with change, creating new structures that foster opportunity and development. So that's how I see it. It's real basic. It's just African workers, laborers, struggling to dismantle and create something new.
Yeah, no, that's a real concise definition of that positive motion. Absolutely.
So let me ask you a question, Melvin, if I can, and that is, historically speaking, what ways have African workers globally been exploited?
Yeah, if we're talking historically speaking, we can always look at the transatlantic slave trade, right? So during that period, where Africa lost probably its number one resource, which was the African people. That begins the age of exploitation for Africa. And we're talking about, and we talked about this in the piece, from the 15th to the 19th century, where millions of our brothers and sisters were forcibly taken from home and shipped off primarily to the Americas, right? So toiling in the Caribbean, where we're talking the sugarcane fields, and whether we're talking about in North America, in the area we call the U.S. now, in the cotton fields of the South, in the tobacco fields in the Southeast, where African labor had been exploited, where we were used as chattel, or property. property, chattel slavery, property based enslavement period during that, and even going over into South America, where our people were also forcibly taken and exploited for a labor source there as well. So millions of our ancestors taken away begins this sort of labor exploitation. But then we can fast forward and talk about like what happened in 1884 and 1885 at the Berlin Conference, when the Europeans carved up Africa and went in and began to exploit our people at home, where the colonial powers forced Africans to work on those plantations, and specifically in mines, and working on railways, all types of sources, but mainly extracting from home its natural resources for the benefit of the Europeans. So we're talking about going from the period of the transatlantic slave trade, or the infantry, the spread of our people throughout the Americas, into a period of colonial power, and then kind of fast forward from there, where we get into a period of neo-colonialism after the age of African independence. Soon after, we had the neo-colonial structure that was put in place, where the puppets, those who look like you and I, were in charge, but were still being controlled by the puppet masters, Europe. So still exploiting our people for labor, and then more importantly, extracting from our homeland our many natural resources, the richest land base on planet Earth, extracting those resources from home for the benefit of the Europeans, and enriching, the pockets and lining the pockets of these neo-colonial puppets. So so transatlantic slave trade, period of colonialism, and neo-colonialism historically can sort of cover up what labor exploitation looked like for us. Hopefully that makes sense.
Absolutely, that's excellent, Melvin. I really appreciate that. It's very illuminating.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah. So yeah. I'm sorry. I was going to ask you, Brother Tokes, during the same historical period of slavery, colonialism, and neo-colonialism, how have African workers responded to their exploitation?
Yeah, it's just been a history of resistance. In fact, once you have exploitation and oppression, you just automatically have resistance. It's as natural as anything. And that's all we see. Of course, during slavery, when you exploit, people resist. It's just that sometimes the resistance isn't recognized as resistance, because people don't have a kind of a stereotypical view of what resistance is. But certainly there were so many rebellions during slavery. Once you have slave labor, that's exploited labor, people are going to rebel. And so you got Nat Turner's rebellion, Denmark Vesey's rebellion, Sojourner Truth. I mean, there were so many efforts. What's the sister who was organizing people to Harriet Tubman? Yeah, because there's not only rebellion, but then there's runaways.
Absolutely.
Anything to avoid being exploited. So they got Harriet Tubman, people running away. Was there. But the thing is, some of it's not recognized as resistance, but it absolutely is. So, for example, you had, unfortunately, infanticide during slavery, where women, rather than have their children be exploited and live as slaves, they would kill them at birth, just so the slave master wouldn't have another human being to exploit. But that's resistance. That's resistance against exploitation, oppression. So,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And no, go ahead. The obvious one is those who own the plantations. As you mentioned, the sugar plantation, the cotton plantation, but even the so-called Negro house slaves, they were involved in it, because in some cases the house slave or captive women would poison the master's food. And so he slowly he gets sick and eventually die. So there was so much resistance to the exploitation during the slave period. So we saw in the colonialism also. You mentioned I think the strikes endemic, especially as you mentioned, the mining areas, but even in the agricultural plantations during the colonial period, people were striking. But many workers were involved in the armed rebellion. You got it in Algeria, you got it in Southern Africa, Angola, Mozambique. Those were African workers, and because they were exploited. But even you got some the resistance was in the Mau Mau in Kenya, for example. All this was an effort to prevent being exploited of the people. So that's colonialism. It was endemic. They joined the anti-colonial movements. Those were workers. But even again, women were so involved in it also. And I don't know if you're familiar in Nigeria. I think in 1929 you had the Aba riots. It's sometimes called the Igbo women's riots. Our listeners should study them. ABA, Aba riots. They were Igbo women, and they resistance against colonialism, but particularly the chieftaincy system. That's what they were upset about, because the chiefs were so cooperative with the colonial powers and trying to prevent African women from being involved in colonial governments and all. And so the women rioted. And so that one is well known, but there was so many examples like that. That's colonialism. But the neo-colonialism is a current reality, and again, strikes, protests, demonstrations, again, the miners as we speak in South Africa, the miners are striking, and also they're involved on the neo-colonialism. They're the ones who are providing the support of these recent coups in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. And so it's the students, of course, involved, the youth, but the workers also are involved in that. So that's part of the resistance, to support people who want to introduce change, positive change. So those are the examples I'd give of those three systems of exploitation.
No, that's very important, and I really appreciate the fact that you kind of did this walk through history and has demonstrated that there's never been a period during African oppression and exploitation that we didn't resist, where we're talking even at home, resisting the Europeans coming to our continent, whether on the slave ships, where they resisted there, and even before they hit their destination, there was resistance there, and we have numerous examples of revolts that happened on these enslaver ships and that kind of thing. And then certainly where you talk about what happened once they reached these plantations, where you have rebellions that happen on the plantations, certainly organized resistance.
Yeah, I forgot.
No, go ahead.
You're right. Before they even get to the so-called New World, they were on the slave ships. That's a part of it. I'm sorry, I missed that. You're right. That was part of the same resistance. Some even choosing to go in the ocean rather than go and be exploited.
Absolutely. So no, I appreciate the fact that you kind of showed and demonstrated and make sure our listeners understand that there's never been a period where we've accepted this oppression and have always fought against it. But can we talk about, if you don't mind, like some recent examples of positive motion of African workers, Tokes?
Well, I think we've covered some of it. Again, I can't speak enough about the miners in Southern Africa, but in Ghana we don't have that type of activity, but we do have people who are fighting against the environmental degradation, and these are mostly workers because it impacts water. This is illegal gold mining that's taking place in Ghana, and it's the workers because it's destroying the water supply, and so it's Ghanaian workers who are protesting and demonstrating to force the government to try to do something about it. So yeah, and then as I mentioned earlier, the more recent coup d'états are heavily supported by workers, African workers, because when they support this provides the opportunity for them to benefit. Free healthcare, free education. That's what these new governments are doing, and so that's a form of resistance, and it's a great thing. It's a great day for African workers in particular.
Yes, definitely.
So I think I have one last question for you.
Yeah.
Melvin, that is, what role can the Pan-African revolutionary or Pan-African organizations like ours play in order to enhance this positive motion of African workers?
Yeah, I like the question. I think what we do regularly is super important in terms of political education. It's super important, but like first we have to push the need for organization. Organization is going to be the key for all of our struggles and all our resistance. And obviously, when workers organize and are unified, they are far more powerful than they would be splintered, right? And so we push organization as a key component of what we must do. To reach our true liberation. We call for Pan-Africanism, the unification of Africa under socialist government. But to begin, we once we're organized, we have to understand who our enemy is, and we understand that our enemy is capitalism in all of its manifestations, right? So we kind of walked and talked about some of capitalism manifestations, and now we're in this stage of imperialism, right? So U.S. imperialism and global imperialism, the highest stage of capitalism, is our enemy, right? So our objective again is Pan-Africanism, a united socialist Africa. Once we're in organization, we have to, employ strong strategies. So having a revolutionary organization with revolutionary principles guiding revolutionary Pan-African socialist principles guiding us, right? That's going to be important. And then our tactics of, again, being political education. We have to continue to educate the masses. And then another major component, what we find in Nkrumah's handbook for revolutionary warfare, he called for an All-African Committee for Political Coordination, or the AACPC, which will serve to plan and coordinate and direct all the phases of the African revolutionary struggle. So those are some of the things that we have to do. Obviously, we want to maintain our own principles. We want to live and we want to be that sort of shining example for our people as well. So we have our principles that we also live by, being a humanist, being and understanding and treating people the way that we would want to be treated ourselves, understanding the power of collectivism and working together to accomplish our goals, and egalitarianism, certainly recognizing the strengths of every individual and giving everyone an equal opportunity to deposit something in this revolutionary struggle are the examples that we can live our life by, so that others can see that it is possible for us to achieve our goal of Pan-Africanism. Those are some things that we can do. I know you can certainly add on to that, Brother Tokes, as a Pan-African or revolutionary organization.
Oh, beautifully put. I think you said it all. The labels are exploited. They produce more value than what they receive. That's what they produce. That's what's called surplus value. And those wages and the little pittance that they receive is a very small fraction of the wealth that they produce. And African workers from times immemorial have been fighting and resisting that exploitation.
Absolutely. Was there anything else that we needed to add to this? I don't know, but I think sometimes our podcasts are sweetened to the point. Like, we want to make sure that it's real concise and that the message is out there. And it's important for all the pieces that are important for our people to understand and to continue to listen to the podcast. And certainly do the research. I know Brother Tokes talked about some ideas for our listeners to kind of look into, to do some more other research. And whatever you might hear from us, we certainly will hope that you would, either, like I mentioned, in Nkrumah's Handbook of Revolutionary Warfare, if you haven't had that or read that piece, pick it up and try to get a better understanding of what we're talking about, or anything you might have heard throughout this podcast. We want you to learn more about, and certainly if there's any individuals around that might have some similar questions, and hopefully that you can start like a study group, and then that could certainly turn into an organization, just from your inquisitiveness, right, and a desire to learn and know more. So that's what we want to spark in all of our listeners, hopefully. But just wanted to make sure you all are with us and all throughout 2025. At times, with the help of invited guests, our focus will be on the 2025 theme of our calendar, which is a United Socialist Africa is not only possible, it is coming.
So join us next month. Is that, what's the January? That's June 2025, when we will discuss. Is that June? Yeah, it's June. We discuss African women's positive motion.
Meanwhile, visit our website, PanAfricanRevolutionarySocialistParty.org. Email us at PanAfricanRSP@gmail.com. And like us on SoundCloud.com and visit us on YouTube.
So remember, organization is the key. Join us, the Pan-African Revolutionary Socialist Party, or some other revolutionary Pan-African socialist organization. A union of African socialist states is on the horizon.
Hey yo, Mr. Big Fat Cat Boss, your company makes millions of pounds a year. When you gonna give the workers their fair share? Give the workers more of the profit, cause you got it. Yes, you got it. Give the workers more of your profit, cause you got it. Yes, you got it. Hey, Mr. Big Man, I make all the profit. You make all the profit in your own pocket. Or what about the workers? Of them should I get it from the ones in the office to the one with the bucket? They make the profit. They should get some of it. Put some of the profit in their beer pocket. When them 65, you get them a watch or a lock it. Stop it. Got the people not take it. Give the workers more of your profit, cause you got it. Yes, you got it. Give your workers more of your profit, cause you got it. Yes, you got it. All the workers I make the profit go up so fast. And all the workers I come and work 8 o'clock sharp. And all the workers I come and work without breakfast. And all the workers I do all the hard work. Company made a profit, they never make a loss. And the younger one to get a pay rise was the boss. They never give a rise to the rest of the staff. The boss him a laugh and buy another race horse. Give the workers more of your profit, cause you got it. Yes, you got it. Give the workers more of your profit. All of the workers, listen. If all is not well, rebel and give them hell. Stand up for your rights and yell. If all is not right, strike and give them a fight. Cause they can't treat the workers just so them like. More pay, where the workers are asked for more pay. No to slave labor, more pay. Increase the wages, more pay. Feel with the mortgage, more pay. More cooperation, more pay. In line with inflation, more pay. Share out the wealth, you can't want all of the money for yourself. Give the workers more of your profit, cause you got it. Yes, you got it. Give your workers more of your profit, cause you got it. Yes, you got it. Hey, Mr. Big Man, I make all the profit. You make all the profit in your own pocket. And what about the workers? Of them should I make it from the ones in the office to the one with the bucket? They make the profit. They should get some of it. Put some of the profit in their beer pocket. And when they 65, they get them a watch or a lock it. Stop it. Cause the worker not take it. Give the workers more of your profit, cause you got it. Yes, you got it. Give your workers more of your profit. All of the workers. If all is not well, rebel and give them hell. Stand up for your rights and yell. If all is not right, strike and give them a fight. Cause they can't treat the worker just so them like. More pay, when the workers are asked for more pay. No to slave labor, more pay. Increase the wages, more pay. Be help with the mortgage, more pay. More cooperation, more pay. In line with inflation, more pay. Share out the wealth, you can't want all of the money for yourself.